morning of March 20th, 2004 broke cold and quiet in Montgomery, Vermont, but the scene at the old Dutchburn barn was anything but ordinary. Brianna Maitland's green Oldsmobile sat eerily backed into the abandoned farmhouse, its rear bumper lodged in the weathered wood, a piece of plywood draped over the trunk. Inside, her paychecks, migraine meds, and contact lenses lay untouched, as if she stepped away for just a moment. Outside, a broken necklace, hers, glinted in the dirt. This was not an accident. The FBI called it staged. In this episode of Dark Dialogue, we're diving deep into the chilling discovery of Brianna's car and the investigation's faltering first steps. A trooper's oversight, witnesses who saw headlights in the dark, and a family left grasping for answers. Every detail at that barn raises questions that haunt us 21 years later. Let's step into the shadows of that crime scene and uncover what it tells us about Brianna's fate. Hey Angela, how's things going?
Things is okay now that we've figured out the haunted electronic thing.
Got the freaking technology shit figured out?
The heck, man.
I don't know. Maybe it's the storm.
Technology hates us today.
Interfering with things or something, but yeah.
It's not like we're live, though. I mean, anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, you ready to dive into this whole damn mess that we got to talk about tonight? Because there's a lot. There's a lot in this case. I mean, I have been up to my ears in the Brianna Maitland case all week, and I don't even feel like I'm scratching the surface.
It's still like the second day of the week.
Well, for a week. My weeks are different than everybody else's weeks because I don't have weekends.
It's like, knock it off.
My weekends are spent doing the same thing that I do through the week, so it's all the same. It just all blends together for me.
I kind of wouldn't have known it was a weekend had I not have left town, but then I slept most of the day Sunday because of it, so I don't know what day it is either.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works, isn't it? All right, so we ready to get this thing started?
Let's do it.
All right. So welcome to Dark Dialogue, the podcast where we unravel the shadows of the human mind and dive deep into the mysteries that haunt small towns and big cities alike. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Angela. And together with John, we will shine a light on the stories that still don't sit right. The ones where official version doesn't line up with what we actually see.
So last episode, we kind of gave an overview of the whole Brianna Maitland case, kind of touched on a little bit of everything.
Right.
And,
cornucopia, if you will.
Yeah, just to kind of give everybody the lay of the land. So in this episode, we're going to the most mysterious part of this case, I think, and that is the night that she disappeared, the strange way that her car was found the next day, and the frankly mishandling of the investigation, at least initially in this case.
Right. So this is episode 2, The House That Watched Her Disappear, Brianna's crime scene. We're breaking down what was left behind, what should have been preserved, and how the early response may have buried more than just evidence.
From the weird positioning of the car to the items found inside and around it, and the ones that were somehow missed, we're unpacking the scene and the avalanche of failures that followed.
So as always, grab your headphones, dim the lights, take a deep breath. John, this means you too.
I'm doing my best over here.
Because this case, it didn't just fall through the cracks. It was pushed.
Yeah, and I gotta say, if you're a drinker, this one might take a strong drink because there's a lot in this one. So, like I said, this is Dark Dialogue. Let's step into the wreckage. Now, Angela, you dug up a little bit of information for us to shine some light on a couple questions from last episode, right?
I guess I did.
The Black Lantern.
I'd like to say that I did, but
I did have some stuff straight to talk about. Is that right?
yes, because I can't let credit go when it's not deserved.
All right, so why don't you tell us what I wrote for you to tell us?
Oh, that was well off. Oh. So, John wasn't able to find their menu from 2004, and it's probably changed since then. And that's because it's closed, changed hands, and then reopened from their website. And I quote, "About us. The Black Lantern Inn has been welcoming guests in Montgomery since 1803. When it closed abruptly in 2015, a group of locals began hatching a plan to open the doors again. The community came together to purchase and now reopen the inn. The Lantern is located in the heart of Montgomery Village." End quote. Their new menu and approach do sound pretty good, though, again, from their website. Quote, "The Black Lantern Inn." Wow. Let's not mix all those words together. No, I just mixed them all together. "The Black Lantern Inn is a proud member of the Vermont Fresh Network." Interesting. "And walk the walk in terms of sourcing local food. Our chef and kitchen team work hard to have an ongoing relationship sourcing local products and working with farmers to ensure the best possible quality product for our customers. Our beef and pork come from our neighbors Mark and Wendy Bruyette,
I think so. Yeah.
of Breezy Acres Farm. We feature a range of Vermont cheeses on the menu, sourcing from, I'm going to say Boucher, maybe? Family?
Maybe Boucher. I'm not.
Who knows? It's a family farm. They're locally sourcing. In Franklin, from our blue cheese dressing, Jasper Hill in Greensboro, Cabot Farms, which is popular, and from Vermont Creamery for our mascarpone for our
Desserts, I believe.
Our produce and vegetables in season come from across the region. Behind our bar, we offer a rotating selection of beer from Vermont breweries, including 14th Star, Fiddlehead, Zero Gravity, Goodwater, Switchback, Queen City, and First Republic. Ciders from Stowe Cider and wine from Shelburne Vineyard. Even our coffee is roasted just across town by Big J Roasting Company. Our menu changes seasonally, and we offer a variety of daily specials based on what is available locally. We will try to keep our Facebook page up to date with the daily specials. The dining room is open Wednesday through Saturday. End quote. Their menu changes all the time, but they seem to serve stuff like shrimp rolls, sandwiches, shrimp and sausage Creole, and chicken piccata.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, the place really does sound pretty damn good. You know, looking through their menu and everything, it's a little bit hard to figure out what their menu is. It sounds as though it changes all the time, which isn't really that unusual for a place that sources locally like that, you know, because they basically cook what is in season, what they can get their hands on, and so. But I think that's really freaking cool.
A lot of people like to do that for freshness, and no, I don't just mean freshness of the food, but freshness of the getting people to come back to see what's happening now.
Yeah, what are they making today?
Yeah.
So I think it's really freaking cool. I was pretty impressed with it. I guess I shouldn't say surprised. I didn't know a damn thing about it, but I had no clue that it had closed down after Brianna had worked there. You know, I've been listening to so many podcasts and everything.
That has anything to do with it?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It just closed.
That would have added a layer of creep for me.
I mean, it closed in 2015 and she disappeared in 2004. So it was 11 years in between. So yeah.
Ruin the creep for me, why don't you?
Sorry, you can go ahead and pretend if you want.
I will. I damn sure will.
And then, like the name indicates, it's also an inn, right?
Yeah, they have 6 rooms in the main inn and 4 suites in what they call the Burdette House. They also host weddings, and it seems like they close everything down for those events.
Gotcha. So it's a normal restaurant and inn, but it's also a wedding venue. So, I mean, that's pretty freaking common, especially for smaller places like that.
Mhm.
I've been to a million of them.
Same.
I think dated a hairdresser that did wedding hair. I couldn't even tell you how many weddings and wedding venues and stuff I've been to. So that's pretty cool though. So they just close down and give the whatever party the whole room of the place, and then gotcha.
Well, if it's that small too, 6 rooms, you're not really gonna be able to share too much.
Your wedding party's probably gonna fill that. I guess it's 10 altogether, right? 6 in the main house and then 4 suites, but still 10 rooms for a wedding party. And I don't think Montgomery has a whole lot of lodging options. It's a pretty small place, like you told us about last week. So
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for that information. So I really went back and forth about how the best way was to tell this story. And I think it's important to at least start with the whole list of key players that's going to be coming in and out and names that's going to be dropping. And, I don't expect everybody to memorize this, of course, because it's no short list. We did Maura's case, and there was 5 or 6 names, including your family, that we had to kind of try to remember and figure out who went where. But this list is a hell of a lot bigger than that. And so I'll try to, as we're going through it, I'll try to kind of remind who this person is and stuff. But if I forget, at least we've kind of set the scene with the whole freaking list of people.
So you're gonna name the roster, huh?
I'm gonna name the roster. So we're gonna start with the good people, or the people on
the good people
that really have nothing to do with this, or have been helping with this, or are family members. So first off is Bruce Maitland, and that is Brianna's father. And you're going to hear me mention his name a lot because he's been very active in all of this and still is to this day. He's not near as public as he used to be. And he's made that pretty clear that it just hurts too much. Every time he has to sit for an interview and dig up these bad memories and stuff. So I don't blame him for that. I mean, it's over 20 years doing this. So yeah, I think it's time for the
It's just a wound that will never heal.
Never heal. And he's active. Like I mentioned in the last episode, he started private investigators for the missing. It's not like he's walked away from this whole work. He's just walked away from the public facing side. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he has the 2 private investigators, and that's Greg Overacker and Lou Berry. And I'll tell you kind of all who they are and everything in a second, but they're really reliable. He knows that they're gonna, Greg Overacker has been with him since like 2005. So like 20 freaking years he's been working on this case.
No doubt.
So Bruce knows both of them really well because Lou was just a couple years after that. So they're both pretty much on the 20-year mark that they've been working on this. And so it's a really kind of a nice situation for Bruce because he can put them out there. They do podcasts, they sit for interviews and all that kind of stuff. And they can kind of share the family's feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's in touch with them, and they kind of act like a barrier between the Maitlands and everybody else. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah, very. And so then next we have Kelly Maitland, and that's Brianna's mom. And I talked about her last episode too. She was on the Disappeared show that Disappeared covered this. Bruce didn't want nothing to do with it. He's kind of got a bad taste in his mouth for all those kind of shows. Early on they were in talks, I guess, with shows like, and I don't know if it was these exact shows, but shows like Dr. Phil or Oprah or whatever. And he was like, it's a bunch of bullshit because they tell you, okay, you've got to cry here, and and he's like, I I ain't gonna fake it up.
I want you to be real.
And I'm gonna,
Yeah.
And so they didn't really do any of those shows. So when Disappeared come knocking, he was like, I am having nothing of it. If you watch that episode, it's kind of funny because they catch him in the profile sitting on the front porch, rocking in the chair. And he won't even turn his eyes towards the camera. And
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to deal with that shit either.
Me either, yeah.
And then we have Wayland Maitland, who is Brianna's brother, and he doesn't factor in a whole lot in the story.
Then he has a really cool name.
He has a really freaking cool name, but I'm glad that he doesn't,
Yeah.
I think that a kid needs to kind of carve their own life.
Is he younger or older?
I believe he's older.
Okay.
But they're pretty close in age. I mean, shit, by this time, Brianna would be almost 40. So, we think about her as a kid and him as a kid or whatever, but they're,
Yeah.
it's been a long time since this whole thing went down.
Well, that's the thing with missing people. Even if you find them, they're still stuck in the age when they left.
At least in the minds of their family.
Just forever that age.
Yeah. We talked about that in the Steven Stainer case where, he was gone from the time he was 7 to the time he was 14.
Yeah.
So by the time he finally came back, in his parents' minds, he was still a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And so it's got to be really hard. Obviously a lot harder to not find them than to find them, but still, they're just kind of cemented in that age and that everything that they were the last time that they were seeing, which is a little bit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So the next name that we have to talk about is Greg Overacker, which I already mentioned him, and he is a private investigator that's been leading the Brianna Maitland case since 2006, I guess, so a couple years after. And then he wrote the book. He literally wrote the book on this case. Called The Hunt for Brianna Maitland. He wrote that in 2023, and you can get that from, it's only available through his publisher.
Really?
He doesn't have it on Audible or Amazon or anything like that, and he explained that just because they want to take 50% of the freaking profits.
Oh yeah.
And, he's like, yeah, I ain't doing that shit. So I think this is still the case, and I've heard him say in multiple different interviews that you can get it through his publisher, or you can reach out on Facebook directly and buy it from him, and he will send you a signed copy of the book. So
wow.
I think the price is exactly the same both ways. So if it was me, I would hunt up Greg Overacker on Facebook and buy the book from him,
right,
and get a signed copy. But he's a really freaking stand-up guy. I think. He's done the majority of this shit for 20 years, basically on his own dime.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting rich off this shit,
Right.
He's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. And then that brings us to the next one, who's a guy by the name of Lou Berry. Now, Lou Berry is a retired police chief, and he is a board member of Private Investigations for the Missing. So he came, like I said, a couple years after Greg. And so these two guys have worked together for freaking near 20 years on this case. They work really well together. They know each other really well. Both of them know the case extremely well, but it's kind of cool because they come from two different backgrounds.
Right.
So Greg kind of come up more in the private investigative background, and not even that so much as doing bail enforcement.
Oh,
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then Lou came up in the police department. He has 35 years or something like that. And he was the chief of police, and he also teaches at the police academy. So they're, these aren't just run-of-the-mill kind of guys.
Randos,
they're professionals. They know their shit. And so I put a lot of faith in these guys. And when they say something, I don't agree with everything. And I will point out throughout these episodes the places where I don't agree with them. And sometimes they don't agree with each other. And so I'll find myself agreeing with one, disagreeing with the other, disagreeing with both of them, whatever. So it's not like they're not gods. They're just making their best informed guesses the same as everybody else in this case, because nobody knows. But if there's a question, I refer to Lou and Greg because they know. Okay. They're in the know on this case. They've been involved for a long damn time. And so there's so much, just like all these cases, there's so many rumors and bullshit out there that you kind of got to refer back to somebody. And these guys are the best ones to refer back to. So any questions about this case, I strongly encourage you to find their interviews and their information, because they're a good source. And there's a lot of really bad sources out there. Unfortunately. Yeah. And then next we have Tim Pellery, and he is the co-creator and host of the Missing podcast. And we've mentioned these guys a couple different times. I think they have multiple podcasts like we do. Crawl Space is one of their podcasts, and they have like the Missing Maura Murray, Missing Brianna. I don't know how many irons they got in the fire, but it's a hell of a lot of them. And his partner, and I'll mention him right now, is Lance Rinstina, or Steiner. It's a tough damn name. It is. Right. Sorry, Lance. Anyway, both of those guys are podcasters just like we are. And they've dedicated years to the Maura Murray podcast. And then they mentioned somebody in that podcast, and Greg Overacker wanted to talk to this person, and so he got in touch with them, and that's kind of what got this whole ball rolling with them. And then at that time they were discussing doing the Brianna Maitland case, and so it kind of all went from there. And so now they are both board members. I think I can't remember. One of them is like a secretary, and one of them is the treasurer for investigations for the missing. So they're very involved with the Maitlands and all that advocacy and everything. So really stellar guys. I encourage you to definitely listen to their podcasts, and they go very in depth, and you can go all the way back to the beginning. And so there's information in there that now we know isn't true, but they've been on this for ever, and they do a really damn good job. So good. So the next one then is Jillian Stout, and Jillian Stout is one of Brianna's childhood friends and was her roommate, and she's the one that Brianna was living with at the time that she disappeared. She's the one that Brianna left the note for, saying I will be back between 11:30 and 12, or whatever the times were. And so, and Jillian's been on, she was on the disappeared episode, and she's been interviewed in several different formats as well. So she's been involved in this case, obviously, right from the very beginning. So next we have Angela Baker, who is the detective sergeant with the Vermont State Police and the lead investigator since 2017. And another cool name. And, you're going to hear me say a lot of shit about the Vermont State Police and the way that this investigation was handled early on, but they've come full circle, and they're doing a really good job. They're doing the best job that they can at this point. But unfortunately, when it's botched at the beginning, you can't never go back and recreate the shit that you lost. You can't ever go back and get a redo. So they're doing the very best that they can with the information that is available to them, same as all of us, everybody. So next we have Matthew Birmingham, and he's a colonel and director of the Vermont State Police, and he worked on Brianna's case full-time at one point. Not anymore. He's been kind of promoted out of it by now, but then we have Thomas Nilsson, who is the Vermont State Police lieutenant who led early investigation. He definitely screwed some shit up. There was a lot of mistakes made. We're going to be talking about that tonight, but he interviewed over 100 people. So it's not like he's been sitting on his ass. And then we've got an unnamed trooper who, I don't know, Roscoe Pico train. You remember Rasco P. Coltrane from Dukes of Hazzard, or what was it, like Farver or whatever from Super Troopers?
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of this dipshit. I don't have a good thing to say about this asshole, and it'll be very clear why by the end of this episode. So next we have Craig Tremaroli, who is the FBI special agent in charge of the Albany field office. And so now the FBI is involved in this case. They have been for quite a while. And they just announced a $40,000 reward last year in 2024. So
we mentioned that in the last episode.
We did, yep. And they're still, active in this case as much as they can be. The sad part about these cases is when you run out of leads, you're out of leads. But like I mentioned in the last episode, we do have a new one. As crazy as it is this much later, we'll be talking about that tonight as well. But that's pretty freaking exciting.
Nice.
Then we have Captain Bruce Lang, who's the Vermont State Police Commander during the early investigations, and he was widely criticized for the early case management. They seriously dropped the ball. Then we have the group that's called the World Travelers. And so this is a group of passerbys who were headed up skiing on Jay Mountain or Jay Peak that day. And they're the ones that stopped and took the pictures, which thank God they did, because they're the only pictures that we have, really, for the most part. And then we move into the bad people, or the people that are persons of interest or questionable kind of people. I don't mean that these are all bad people, although most of them are pretty freaking bad people. Anyway, the one of them that I really don't know where he falls, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. He's a player in the case, and that's a kid, or he's a man now, by the name of Michael Stebbins, and he was. This part gets so freaking confusing, and I think a lot of people get it wrong. I hope that I'm getting it right, or a lot of people get it wrong.
Right. Okay.
I believe
right.
I believe I'm coming down on the right side, but it's so goddamn confusing that maybe I'm not, but I'm pretty positive about this.
Okay.
And that is that Michael Stebbins was Keely LaCrosse's boyfriend, who Brianna quote unquote spent time with. That caused the whole big blow up, which again we'll be diving into tonight. And then he is also the one, or I believe it was his parents, that owned the property where the manure pit and everything was located, where they said Brianna's body was thrown, where they searched one, but they wouldn't give them permission to search anymore. So, I don't know. And then we have a douchebag by the name of Jorge Soto, who goes by the name Joker. And he's a piece of shit drug dealer that, he came out. He's, a lot of people out there online, if you research this, say, oh, Joker's the one that killed her. There's really no evidence of that whatsoever, except that dumbass was bragging that he was the one that killed her. But then when
people do that,
because he's a dipshit.
I mean, really, but
when they had looked into him, he was in jail. He got out like that morning. It was like that soon. It was like the day before that morning.
So he'd have had to have been the Flash.
Yeah, he would have had to have been the Flash, and there's no indication that the two knew each other. So it's not like he's an ex-boyfriend who got out of jail that morning. He's like a stranger who's, kind of peripherally involved with the other douchebags, the drug dealers in this story.
Okay.
But there's no indication that he really was involved with Brianna, that they even knew each other. So trying to come up with a reason why he would kill her is pretty difficult to do. I think he was just a loudmouth piece of shit that was trying to make himself look big and bad. And I think that's it. He's been investigated thoroughly So it's not just me that's saying this. The Vermont State Police, the private investigators, the FBI, they all say this douchebag had nothing to do with it. He just has a big mouth and doesn't know when to shut up.
Gotcha.
So, but he's a dumbass. And if you go to research in this case, his name is going to come up all over the place for that very reason. Then we have a guy by the name of James Robitaille. And this was Brianna's ex-boyfriend. And he's the one that you couldn't nail the son of a bitch down. He wasn't there at all. Then he was there. Then he was in Canada. And then he wasn't in Canada. Then he closed the doors and he didn't close the doors. We'll go through all that shit tonight, but his story is all over the place. Unfortunately, he's dead. He died in a car wreck. And so, there's no chance of getting any more information out of him. I don't think he was involved, but we'll kind of lay it all out and everybody can kind of come to their own decision on that one. So then we've got Ellen DeCharme, and she was convicted of murder in 2004, tied to the same drug circle that Brianna was allegedly involved with, and the rest of the pieces of shit that were involved in that mess and everything. So, and she's the one that then filed the affidavit that said that that Brianna was killed, cut up with a table saw, and fed to the pigs. But, she changed her story multiple different times as well. And it kind of seems like she was just trying to play a card that she didn't have, but she wanted to get out of trouble.
Right.
So then we
tell you things, just stop talking to me type. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't want to go to prison for the rest of my life. So I'll tell you who killed Brianna.
Right. Okay.
And so, it was investigated, but there's no evidence of that. And, ever since freaking Robert Pinkton got busted up in Canada, I don't know if you're familiar with that dumb piece of shit or not.
But my last name sounds familiar for some reason.
So he's the one that was up in Canada that did kill people and feed them to the pigs. He was a pig farmer in Canada.
That would be why.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so ever since that story broke, it's like every missing person gets fed to the pigs.
I've said it before. I hate that people know pigs will do that.
I know.
I hate that.
I know.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, the reality of it is it's not very freaking common that somebody gets fed to the pigs. It just isn't. So I'm not saying that didn't happen. I have no clue, but it's pretty suspect. And then we have a couple of pieces of shit by the name of Moses and Daryl Robar. So Moses helped dispose of a murder victim. That is Legia Ray Collins, her body. And it's a big convoluted mess. We're not going to get into it this episode. It's going to be the next episode where we jump into the whole drug circle and all these asshats. But suffice it to say, there was a murder shortly after Brianna's disappearance, and all these asshats were involved in it. Well, when the cops came to question Moses, he put a gun to his head and shot himself. So we don't...
In front of him.
Pretty much, yeah.
Holy moly.
So we don't know. I mean, obviously, we're not getting any more information out of that asshole either.
That screams guilt.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was almost certainly guilty of at least helping dispose of the other murder victim's body.
Right.
So, and then a guy by the name of Tim Cruz, who helped Ducharme and Robar dispose of Collins's body.
Names in this story.
I know.
There's some interesting names.
And yeah, it's tough to wade through them all. But so they're part of the same drug circle that is suspected in Brianna's case, or at least is involved in Brianna's case. Okay. Then we have Daryl Robar, who, like I mentioned before, is Moses's brother. And the parents apparently really love Moses, because there's Moses Robar and then Daryl Moses Robar. So Daryl's middle name is
Goodness.
one of the stranger things I've heard of a family doing with names.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's also rumored to be involved with that same drug circle of shit brains.
I wonder if it's a family name and their dad has it too or something.
Maybe. I don't know. Then we've got Ramon Ryans, who is a total piece of shit. Also went by K Street, also went by Street, and he's the drug dealer that was involved with Brianna, most certainly.
Okay.
And was seen with just the two of them and all that kind of stuff. So he's a total piece of shit. He's a big name in this case. If you research it at all, a ton of people out there think that he's the one that killed her. And he's been suspected because of multiple tips that have come in over the years, and it's rumored that, and we'll get into this more in the next episode, but you know, there's rumors that he killed Brianna because she owed him money. There's rumors that she somehow loaned him between $1,000 and $3,000 to buy a bunch of crack cocaine, which we're talking about a 17-year-old girl that had just started working 2 restaurant jobs.
And
so
her mom just bought her pants for it.
Yeah, so I seriously question that she was loaning any money to drug dealers.
Yeah.
And if she did, why are they going to kill her over that? What's this little girl going to do?
Exactly.
You know, you think she's going to go to the cops and turn them in because she loaned them money to buy drugs? I mean, the story doesn't make any damn sense. But
there have been people who have ended up on shadow chats for less.
This is true, but Brianna, we know, is sharp.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
She's not one of our dumb criminals that's going to go to the cops over that. So
I was not alluding to that.
I know you weren't.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is it's kind of a dumb theory, in my opinion.
I was going to ask if there was a reason why people thought he did it, and then you answered. So
yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people think he did it. And like I said, that's going to be more next episode than this one, but we will dive deep into these pieces of shit. Okay. The next one being Nathaniel or Nate Jackson.
I'm bringing a shovel to next episode.
You're going to need one because there are asshats coming out of the woodwork. Obviously, I'm going through the whole freaking, this reads like a demon's resume or something like that, man. These people are total asshats.
Well, I don't like this team roster and I don't want to be on it.
Yeah. So Nate Jackson, and I think that his street name was Low.
Really?
Yeah. So he was the associate of Ryan's. I showed you his picture last week. He's the other piece of shit.
Okay.
And he's also named in an anonymous affidavit as being involved in Brianna's murder. No charges have been filed, obviously, against either one of these ass clowns. Then we have Keely Lacrosse, who is the former friend who violently assaulted Brianna about 3 weeks before the disappearance.
Broke her nose, right?
Broke her nose, gave her a concussion, 2 black eyes, messed her up pretty bad, honestly. And then she was later arrested for burglary, assault, and cruelty to children. So she's not like
shining star
of the year or anything like that. Then we have, again, because we have an unsolved case in this time period, so of course we have Israel Keys.
Yep.
And he really needs, no introduction. Anybody that has listened to us knows who this piece of shit is. He's a serial killer that did not kill Brianna and did not kill Maura Murray, but his name...
Filthy, disgusting POS.
Oh, he's a sorry excuse for a human being. He killed himself. Thank God. Hallelujah. I'm glad we're rid of him. I wish he would have given us some more answers before he did it.
No doubt.
Whatever. We're rid of the son of a bitch.
He deserves pigs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Alive.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah. But we're not going to spend hardly any time.
You should probably stop doing that.
We're not going to spend hardly any time whatsoever on him. We'll mention him in passing, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit any more than Maura did. We spent a little bit of time on him in the Maura case. So if there's questions, go back and listen to that episode because it's pretty much just a repeat. He wasn't there. He wasn't in the area. The FBI's cleared him. Done deal. And then we have a douchebag by the name of Brian Rooney, who was convicted of murder of a Vermont college student. And so he's been speculated in online forums and shit to be linked to Brianna's case as well. So that is the whole cast of great people and absolute douchebags. You can't go hardly, I don't think, from one end of the spectrum to the other. We've covered pretty much all of them, but you see after that list of names why I said you got a shit ton of people in this story to try to keep straight and to figure out who fits with who. And then you've got the whole drug culture and the couch surfing and the lifestyle of these people.
Yeah.
And it just makes it so
messy.
It's extremely messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it really hard to investigate. And then you get on a trail of something and you think, wow, this is, okay. And you follow that all the way down to the end and then you figure out, okay, so there's no merit. This is bullshit. I'm not even going to bring it up on the podcast. I just wasted 6 hours of my life. Something that I'm not even going to talk about because it's just going to confuse the listeners for no freaking reason.
Such is life, though.
But so with that, and again, I don't expect everybody to memorize that list and know exactly what I'm talking
about. No, there will be a test at the end.
But there is a test for you.
Damn it.
There's the co-host test, but yeah, the listeners, there's no test for.
Okay, listeners, help me out.
But
send me emails.
So we've ran through that whole list of names. Again, I don't expect you to remember them, but at least I've kind of put them out there. So if I mention them and forget to tell you who they are, hopefully you can recall from your memory, because there's so many players in this story and they kind of come in and out that it's going to be hard for me to remember to say, James Robitaille or Robitel or however you say his last name, Brianna's ex-boyfriend who is now deceased. It's going to be hard to do that. So at least I've laid the groundwork for this episode, and then maybe I'll just go through that list of names again for the next episode and people can skip forward if they missed it. I don't know, because it's a lot of names to try to keep straight.
Add new names if there are any.
Hopefully there's not.
Hopefully there's not.
I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the list of characters in this story, but again, I don't research the entire series out before we start recording. And so who knows, shit might come up before the end of this where I might have to be like, and we've got another asset.
Yeah. And enter. Yeah.
So, but I think a good way to start tonight is going to be to, let's talk about the timeline that leads up to March 19th, and then we can dive into March 19th. So to start with, on October 8th, 2003, Brianna moved out, and that was her 17th birthday. I'm not saying that she was packing a car on her 17th birthday, but right around that time, she turned 17 and made the decision to move out of her parents' farm in East Franklin, Vermont. And, that was to gain some independence, live closer to her friends. At that point, she was attending Enosburg Falls High School after she had left the Missisquoi, or however you say that. I think it's Missisquoi Valley High School. She left there. She started high school in Enosburg Falls. And that was only about 15 miles away from where she was going to school originally. And then Bruce said that they were kind of right on the line, like the county line, you got to live in this area to be. And so he said it was kind of a up in the air type of thing, what school she went to anyway. And it sounded like, she was kind of getting bullied and picked on at the Missisquoi Valley High School. So she decided to go to the Enosburg Falls, and it almost sounded like kind of the same shit repeated there, which led her to then just drop out.
She was not a school kid, and I know a handful of those.
Yeah, and
so not that it incredibly matters, but is 17 like legal age in Vermont, or
I don't believe
she just
so.
bailing because she just wanted to? And
yeah, I think she was bailing because she just kind of wanted to. She wanted to get some freedom. She was definitely going through a bit of a rebellious phase right there, smoking some pot, smoking cigarettes, experimenting with drugs. And it sounds like maybe you know, kind of extensively experimenting, not like shooting up or anything like that.
Right.
But it sounds like she was pretty willing to party and do drugs when they were available. So not really a life conducive with living with the parents.
Yeah.
You know, and she was right there at that cusp. We talked about it the last episode, but when you're 17, you're like, I'm an adult,
yes.
even though you're not.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked.
So,
because I know some places.
I don't believe that legally she was an adult. I don't know of any states where legally you're an adult at 17.
Right, but where it's not as, I don't want to say frowned upon, but where like you can get away with more at 17. And I don't mean get away with bad things, but I'm trying to get at, right?
I think I do. I think is what you're trying to say is I do believe there's states where at 17 you can legally leave your parents' home and not be considered a runaway. Like the law can't come and arrest you and take you home.
Like an emancipation, but not
but not going through the official emancipation stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And either way, Bruce and Kelly were not going to push the issue with her. So, you know, it's from what I understand, again, I'm not speaking for the Maitlands, but I have listened to a couple of different interviews with Bruce, and he made it sound like he was not on board with this whatsoever.
Right. But
essentially said,
your decision.
If you're going to do this, if you're going to go out and live like an adult, then you're going to have to be an adult. You're going to have to pay your own way. And like I said last episode, I totally support him with that because I'd have done the same thing. I'd have been like, well, I don't know that I got the cops involved and tried to make them stay home, because by the time they're 17, you're kind of just creating a bigger, you know,
you're just asking to never see him again when they turn 18.
Exactly. So, So you kind of got to, I mean, you just really got to pick the lesser.
Grin and bear it. Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have manuals as parents, and we can't see the future. So you never know whether you're making the right mistake or the right mistake or the wrong.
I mean, that's the way it is. Yeah.
You know, so anyway, so all of that happened. She went ahead and moved out. From October to November, she lived with Katie Manning. And so she moved in with her friend, Katie Manning, in Enosburg near the high school. And that was to kind of facilitate her school transfer and everything.
Right.
This arrangement lasted, like I said, 1 to 2 months, but it fell apart by early December of 2003. I don't really know why it fell apart. You know, it could have been logistical reasons. Maybe they had a falling out. I don't know. All I know is it didn't work out for her to live there. Okay. So from December 2003 into January 2004, she lived with her boyfriend's families. So after leaving Katie's home, she stayed with the families of 2 different of her, and I think both were ex-boyfriends at this.
It turns out they loved her more.
Yeah. Or at least loved her enough to give her a place, you know. And that was the family of James Robitaille or Robitel or however the hell you say his last name. I've heard it pronounced every different way I'm pronouncing it, so it's not like, oh, okay, that's how you say it.
It's just different every time.
Yeah. So, and he was Brianna's on and off boyfriend, part of her social circle, and she lived with his family briefly, but it said that tensions arose. So
imagine that'd feel weird.
Yeah, and that was possibly due to her alleged flirtation with him while he was dating Keely Lacrosse.
Oh.
They broke up.
Yeah.
James started dating Keely. Brianna, it's a freaking mess. Brianna was living with James's family, and so apparently, Brianna was flirting with James when he was around his family. That didn't set well. It's time for her to go. I don't know. That's just what I saw reported.
Okay.
And then Mike Garrow is the other boyfriend, and there's fewer details available about him, but Brianna stayed with his family temporarily, but there's no specific conflicts, no duration that I could find or anything like that. It was just kind of mentioned in passing. So I don't know anything about that. I don't really know anything about him. He doesn't seem to factor into the story beyond this point. So he doesn't, at least from my research, doesn't appear to have potentially been involved in any way, or
Okay.
his name just never really seems to come back up again. So obviously these stays were unstable. They lasted weeks, maybe a couple months. And then, living with romantic partners' families and ex-romantic partners' families, it likely posed all kinds of different challenges. And
Imagine it gets really tough.
yeah, and it's a really chaotic mess is what she's living with right now. So obviously her grades suffered, which contributed to her decision to drop out of high school. She's just really in a tumultuous point in her life right now, obviously, by choice.
Right.
It's not like her parents kicked her out. She made this decision.
Yeah.
But you can imagine trying to go to school every day while sleeping on people's couches, and it almost seems like not really knowing where you're going to sleep that night. Maybe not quite to that extent, but from the time from October into January, she's at like 4 or 5 different places. So
do we know if she tried to go back home, or if it was a pride thing and she didn't want to go back home?
I think it was a pride thing, because I haven't gotten the indication whatsoever. I've never even heard it alleged that like Bruce and Kelly wouldn't allow her to come back home. I think the door was open. She could come home whenever she wanted, but I think she was frankly a lot like me at that age. And like, I've made my decision, and hell or high water, I will freeze my ass off. I will freeze to death.
I will not let you be right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that it might have been some of that. And again, I can't fault her for that, because that's exactly how I was at that age. I would hurt myself to prove a point. Why we do that, I don't know. It's changed a lot as I've gotten older. I'm not like that. But not nearly as much as I was anyway, but a typical teenage shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I figure the parents were saying no. I just wasn't.
No, it's a good question. And I can't say for sure one way or another, but I didn't get that indication anywhere. I think the door was open, but she had made this decision. So, and then from December 2003, so kind of in the mess of all of the boyfriend family bullshit. So after the boyfriend arrangements ended, sometime in that time period, Brianna started just couch surfing, staying with various friends, and occasionally even sleeping in her 98 or 85 Oldsmobile, which, like we said, had, basically couches for seats. But this is in the wintertime. Yeah. This is December, February. This is Vermont. So this is in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, it's cold as shit up there in the wintertime.
Yeah.
That's a tough period of time to be sleeping in your car.
Yeah.
So obviously this period was marked by significant instability, impacting her ability to succeed academically. It was reported that sometimes she stayed with her friends, including Megan Jefferson, Sydney Kuhn, Hillary Robitel, but there's no fixed residence that was established at all during this time. And, to your point, it was reported that her pride was a big, part of the desire for that. She didn't want to break. She didn't want to have to go home. She didn't want to have to admit defeat. So she was going to make this happen no matter what.
I understand that, because I absolutely hate being told I told you so.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that so much.
And as a teenager by your parents, it's like 50 times worse than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because you are at that rebellious stage. You're trying to prove that you can do this on your own. And so it really sucks.
Because it's going to be different for me. No,
it's not. When you have to eat crow and go back and say, I failed, you were right. That's hard.
Do you know how many of those conversations that your parents have had with you that you turn around and have with not only your kids, but like your kids' friends?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, Wow, this sounds familiar. Because they've all said it to me, and I didn't listen to them, and I'm saying it to people who are not going to listen to me, and the wheel would break if somebody would finally just listen.
Exactly. But that's the part about teenagers.
Yep.
They don't listen.
Yeah.
They don't listen, and then it goes exactly the way you said it was going to go.
Yep.
And, you know, for most of us, we're lucky enough then to pick them up, dust them off, get them, you know, directed back on another good path.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because something tragic happened to Brianna during that period of time where most of us are like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I could really envision myself being like, oh yeah, I mean, there's an episode of Growing Pains years and years ago where Kirk Cameron is like sleeping in his car, you know, and his parents go through much the same kind of thing, you know, and the mom is trying to, you know, sneak him out some food or whatever, and the dad's like, he can sit out there and freeze until he, you know, all of us go through that shit with our kids. It's just unfortunate in Brianna's situation that something tragic happened in that interim period. It's it's really nothing that she did wrong, really, other than being a dumb kid that was making bad decisions.
Yeah.
It's nothing that her parents did wrong. They were just being parents. They did what so many of us have done or would do. It's just shitty luck that it happened during that period of time that she encountered some pile of shit. And he had bad intentions, whatever those may be, whatever, you know, however we end up coming out, I think we can agree that she didn't run away. She definitely met foul play. And, you know, in this series, I'm not even going to entertain an episode. We might mention it in passing, but I'm not even going to entertain wasting the listener's time with a theory that she ran off willingly. It's just absolutely ludicrous. So by late February up to March 19th, when she disappeared, she lived with Jillian Stout, like I said earlier. So she moved in with her childhood friend Jillian and Jillian's father in Sheldon, Vermont, which was roughly about 20 miles west of Montgomery and 10 miles from Enosburg. And this provided her the stability that she needed to allow her to get enrolled in the GED program at the community college, to get through that program, to pass her GED exam. And, you know, then, like I said, that's where she was living when she disappeared. So that's kind of the timeline that has led up to March 19th, 2004. So do you have any questions before we kind of move on with that day? Okay. So
I've just been interrupting you whenever I want to.
Perfect. You keep doing that. So then that lands us.
It's very easygoing.
I try to be. So that lands us on the day of March 19th, 2004. So let's go through that timeline. So the morning, again, is so difficult because there's so many sources that say different shit. But I believe that she met her mom, Kelly, for breakfast that morning. I can't say that for sure because in some places it says they didn't meet up until afternoon. So I don't know. Right. But in the disappeared episode, Kelly said that they met for breakfast that morning. So I feel pretty confident that they did.
That Kelly knows what she's talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but it's really neither here nor there. It doesn't make any difference in the story. So the morning started out with either Brianna getting ready to take her GED exam or meeting her mom for breakfast before taking the GED exam. It doesn't factor in other than that.
Right.
But she did go to the Community College of Vermont in Burlington, which we said last episode was about a 40-mile drive from Franklin County where she was living. And that's another reason that I think it's probably pretty damn likely that they had breakfast, because she went to Burlington with Kelly. So I think is probably what happened is Kelly picked her up that morning, took her to breakfast. They probably drove to Burlington, went and had breakfast before the big test. She took her over, dropped her off at the College of Vermont. She took her test. Then mom picked her up. They spent the afternoon together. I think is probably, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does.
So, and she passed that test. Now, again, I heard it reported a couple different ways. One was that she passed the final portion of the test, which was the math test, and something that she had struggled with was math. But in researching it, I just don't think that's the truth at all, because it looks to me like it's taken just like any other exam. You go and you pass the whole exam all at once. That's what I'm assuming. Again, it really doesn't make one difference, different one way or another. She passed her exam, whether it be the final part of the exam or the whole exam. She passed everything that she needed to get her GED.
Correct.
So it was a pretty big final hurdle for her either way, and pretty damn exciting, really, because, you know, she had made that decision to drop out of high school, but then to just pick up and get her GED right away after that was pretty impressive and damn exciting, really, for her that day. Yeah. So, and then no matter how that all went down, she did meet up with Kelly after the exam, and, you know, they went out to lunch together. And I'm sure that they probably, you know, discussed Brianna's future plans. She was talking about possibly going to college and stuff like that. So she had some plans other than just exist and work as a waitress in a dishwasher or whatever. You know, she had a desire to move on in life and to do something. And so, and then they went ahead and went shopping, like I said, and that was at the University Mall in Burlington, which is a pretty damn good sized mall. I'm pretty sure that I read it was the largest mall in Vermont. So pretty big shopping mall.
Wow.
They went there, like I said, the last episode to get, you know, some pants that she needed for her job at KJ's Diner. And then, you know, just mom-daughter time.
Yeah.
And it was at that mall that
supposedly,
yeah, I don't really know what to think about this, but possibly somebody like called her outside and warned her not to go to work that night, or she went outside to have a cigarette and didn't want mom to know it. And we talked about that last episode, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it here, but I don't know. It's just another one of those strange damn things.
For whatever reason, she went outside. And it does seem like her behavior changed after that. She went from being like having fun with mom and all that kind of stuff to, I got to get home and got to get ready for work. Now, I don't know if that was like a time thing. It's almost time for me to go to work, or if it was, you know, something happened and she's distracted now and has that on her. Who the hell knows? We'll probably never know. But we do know that she clocked into work at the Black Lantern Inn at 3:30 that afternoon. So they weren't in Burlington late in the afternoon, that's for sure. You know, it's a 40-minute drive home. So, and then she had to drive all the way over to Montgomery after she got home and got dressed and ready to go. So, you know, I would say that they almost had to be home by like 2:00 at maybe the very latest for her to get dressed and everything. Cause it's like a 40-mile drive, or no, I'm sorry. It's like an 18-mile drive from, over to Montgomery from where she was living. Okay.
So, she clocked in at 3:30, and everything about that shift seems to be normal. You know, talking to her coworkers and everything, nobody's mentioned anything remarkable whatsoever. And so she worked the night, and then they offered for her to have dinner, and she said, no, I can't have dinner. I got to get going. I have to work tomorrow morning. And so she clocked out of the Black Lantern Inn at 11:20, got into her 85 Oldsmobile Delta 88, and started driving towards Sheldon, where she was living with Jillian. And that is the last time anybody saw her alive. Anybody that's not a shithead asshat saw her alive. But now, I saw it reported in a pretty reputable place where I put a lot of faith in it. And well, Greg Overecker said it, that they have confirmed that the first known sighting of her car that they have faith in was at 11:45. So sometime between 11:20 and 11:45, she's gone. She disappears. So
it's like just a few more minutes than Maura.
Yeah, only in a much stranger, even a stranger circumstance.
Yeah.
Because Maura had wrecked and she was outside of her car. We talked about in her episode that makes you more vulnerable.
Right.
Somehow.
19 minutes and 20 some minutes.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, really this window's even shorter because she, in that amount of time, she has to get to the Dutchburn property.
Yeah.
Whatever happens has to have happened. She has to wreck her car, or her car has to get wrecked and disappear in that 20-minute window.
Yeah.
So it's I would say it's even crazier.
Was there any indication in this one if her driver's seat was like where it would have been had she been driving it?
We'll talk about that, but unfortunately, Roscoe Picotrain is the investigating officer who does absolutely jack shit. So no,
Okay.
I mean, I think I have some pictures of the inside of the car, and it looks to me like the seat is scooted up. And then Greg Overacker was told, well, either Greg or Lou, I'm pretty sure it was Greg Overacker, was told by who he considers to be a pretty reliable witness that apparently knows what happened, that a tall guy, quote unquote tall guy, got into the car and ended up backing it into the barn because he was too tall and couldn't get his foot on the brake. I don't know how much. I don't know.
So that's what I was wondering, if somebody staged the backing in.
Well, and that's
when somebody else already had her.
Right. And that's, we're going to talk about that exact thing tonight because it's going to come up.
There we go, foreshadowing again.
That's okay. The FBI thinks that it was staged. I disagree with the FBI, and I'll tell you why when we get to that part. But what we do know is that by 11:45, her car is seen. And then by midnight, around midnight, sometime in that period of time, which it hasn't been made completely clear to me yet, but this new tip that just came out says that it was a couple that saw a tall, stocky man in the car's headlights right around midnight, and they saw this silver and gray Honda Civic speeding up and braking, and then the guy apparently got into this Honda. This couple tried to follow the Honda, and they said that this Honda was doing, they said they were doing like between 60 and 70 on these windy backcountry roads, and the Honda just walked away from them like they were standing still. So whoever was driving the Honda was seriously hauling ass.
Tokyo Drift style.
Yeah, they would have had to have been. And so, but that's a brand new tip. That just broke, not very damn long ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago or something like that. So that's brand new. That is the tip that dropped.
What made them come forward all of a sudden?
No clue. All I know is that Lou and Greg say they had a good reason for staying silent for 20 years. In my mind, I'm like, okay, what is that reason?
No doubt.
I can't think of a good reason, but whatever. I mean,
okay.
At least they came forward. I can't even begin to think what the reason would be, unless it was something like they were visiting from out of town. They saw this really weird shit go down. They went home, never heard about this or whatever, happened to be listening to a podcast or seen Disappeared or something, and was like, holy shit,
that later
the night. Maybe it was something like that, which would make a lot of sense, and it would be a very good reason.
Yeah.
And I'm just completely pulling shit out here, but if it was something like that, I could see
make
something like that
sense, yeah.
happen, you know? I mean, because when this went down, it wasn't like, you know, Lacey Peterson, where it was on every freaking news channel all over the country. I mean, this was relatively unheard about. And outside of the true crime community, it's still relatively unheard of, you know? I mean, it didn't draw the kind of attention that like a Jodi Arias or a Lacey Peterson or, you know, some of those. And for whatever reason, you know, some of these cases are just huge, whether it's like we have nothing to talk about this week and, you know, John Benet Ramsey gets murdered the day after Christmas and it's a really slow news week. So every news in the entire country is there. Who knows why it happens? I think it's a lot of different reasons, but Brianna's case was definitely not like a John Benet Ramsey or a Lacey Peterson. So outside of Vermont, it was relatively unheard of for a long time outside of the true crime community, which in 2004 hardly existed.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm going to hope that your theory is why they didn't come forward.
Well, and again, Greg and Lou both said they had a good reason. So I'm just guessing, but that would be a potentially good reason is they didn't realize that they had witnessed something, you know, until much later, which is possible.
Right.
And then by midnight or 12:30, sometime in that time period, a second or a third witness with the new witness. Now we have like a third witness that saw the car with the doors open and the turn signal on. And then this is where it gets really interesting. So at
It wasn't interesting before.
So at 2:30 a.m., we have James Robitaille's version number 1, which is he saw the car around 2:30. He's coming back from Canada, saw the car around 2:30, pulled over, got out, went to check if Bree was in the vehicle, saw that she wasn't. The lights were on, both doors were open. I think he also said the turn signal was on. He turned off the headlights, the turn signal, closed the doors, and then he went home. But then at 4:30 a.m., we have his version number 2, which is he was coming back from Canada, saw the car around 4:30, 2 hours later, shined his headlights on it, never got out of his car. Once he realized that Bree wasn't there, he left and went home. And like I said in the last episode, this guy gave so many freaking different stories, and they're kind of all over the map. He was in Canada.
What did he drive?
I have no clue.
Wonder if it was a Honda.
I don't believe so, but I don't know. I think that I don't know. I'm not even going to say, but he drove too fast because that's what killed him. But But anyway, I have no idea. I'm sure that is being investigated currently because that tip has been turned over to the Vermont State Police and the FBI. So I'm sure they're looking into it and researching that. So, and, you know, we'll be talking about at the end of this episode and then really throughout this entire series that if you know somebody in that area that drove a gray or silver Honda Civic, then you know, reach out, you know, we'll give the numbers and everything for people to reach out to. But yeah, we need to know, we need to identify that vehicle. And then at 8 a.m., so, you know, now we're in the morning of March 20th. So around 8 a.m. is when the world travelers come by and they see the car. They take the pictures. Thank God that they do, because otherwise, we wouldn't have any pictures. They're the ones that took all the pictures that we have. And they claim that there was a to-go coffee cup on the ground, as well as 65 cents in change scattered around, a water bottle, and a lime wedge that was frozen to the trunk.
Weird.
And then around 1 o'clock till 1:15, Trooper Dipshit arrives on the scene, assumes that it was a drunk driver. He notes that there was paychecks in the truck or in the car. He has the car towed to the garage. I think he snapped a picture, and then he doesn't contact the owner, who was Kelly. Brianna's mom was the registered owner of that vehicle. Doesn't contact her. Doesn't really do shit. He does drive to the Black Lantern, finds out they're closed, and then leaves on a long weekend. So that's...
I've done all I can do here.
Yeah. So then on March 22nd, so 2 days after the dipshit trooper had the car towed, Jillian returns home and notices Bree's note is still there and that Bree isn't. But she doesn't really think anything about it. She thinks that Bree probably stayed with her parents or something like that. So she doesn't really do anything until the next day, March 23rd, when she calls Bruce and Kelly to see if Brianna's there. And then Kelly's like, no, I thought she was with you. And that's when they're like, oh shit, we don't know where she's at. And so Bruce and Kelly officially report her missing to the Vermont State Police on March 23rd. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is the day that Kelly called Bruce, and he was in New York on a sales trip, and says, Brianna's missing. We can't find her anywhere. Bruce then gets in his truck, or gets in the car, drives all the way home. And I heard it described as driving all night. So it's very possible that Kelly went alone to make this initial report of her missing. I can't confirm that one way or another, but I do know that Bruce was in New York and he drove all night to get home. So, and that she was officially reported missing on the 23rd. So I'm imagining that Kelly probably reported her missing by herself that day. And then once Bruce gets there, they continue trying to locate the vehicle, trying to locate Brianna. Now, it's important to note that we talked about this in Maura's case as well. This was a different period of time where cell phones are concerned, but be that as it may, Brianna didn't have a cell phone at all. Sometimes she would borrow her mom Kelly's because Kelly had a cell phone, but not this day. So on this day, she doesn't have a cell phone at all, which now seems like crazy talk. But in 2004, there was a lot of people that hadn't gotten cell phones yet. So it wasn't that unusual.
Now, if you don't have one, you're rebelling against them.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely
rejecting cell phones.
But there was a shit ton of people in 2004 that did not have cell phones.
Right.
So Bruce and Kelly Bruce or Kelly or both of them, she gets reported to the Vermont State Police on March 23rd as an official missing persons. The Vermont State Police issues an APB for the car. Bruce and Kelly continue to look. And then 2 days after that, on March 25th, Bruce and Kelly go in person to the St. Albans State Police Barracks. And, they go in there and they're like, our daughter's still missing, blah, blah, blah. And then this is when Trooper Dipshit pulls out a picture because, they're like, yeah, she was driving an 85 Oldsmobile. And he pulls out a picture of the car backed into the side of a freaking barn. And that's when they're like, Kelly would say later that she saw evil in that picture. And I know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Their stomachs had to just drop. And so Trooper Dipshit had this car towed on the 20th. Now this is the 25th where he's pulling it out. And this is when they find out that no report has ever been filed during this time. Yeah. Trooper Dipshit just left. He never filed a report. He never passed this on to another officer. He didn't do anything with it. He just left. I don't know if he had like a vacation or if it was scheduled days off. I have no idea. I heard it reported he left for a long weekend. In law enforcement, that could just be a normal weekend. because a lot of times they work 12s, you know, like here, I know that they work 12s. And so 1 week they'll have 3 days off, and the next week they'll have 4 days off. So it could have been something like that. It could have just been normal scheduling that he was off. I don't really know. And it doesn't really matter because the dipshit didn't do what he should have done.
Before or after.
Before or after, right. And so
there is evil in that picture.
There is evil in that picture. And it's important to note that when Bruce and Kelly first reported Bree missing to the Vermont State Police on the 23rd, the Vermont State Police issued an all points bulletin for the car, but her car was in the possession of the Vermont State Police. Essentially, it had been taken to Lutz's towing, but
still, for all intents correctly.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it is in the possession of the Vermont State Patrol. They're the ones that had it towed.
Right.
So it's absolutely unacceptable. I have no idea who this trooper is. I don't know what happened to him. He definitely should have been disciplined at the very least for this. This seems like really shitty, lazy police work.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. It was 20 some years ago. So, but after that, then Bruce and Waylon go to Lutz's Automotive where the car is, and they don't have the keys. So at one point, it sounds like the trooper said that he had the keys, but then he didn't have the keys. Is all we know for sure is the keys have never been seen again. So we're assuming, right?
Really,
we're assuming that they're probably with Brianna, that the trooper never did have them, but he did such a shitty job of logging anything or doing any sort of proper police work that we just have no way of knowing.
And we can't believe the boyfriend if he actually did turn the car off, because the story keeps changing.
Right. He only did that in one account of the story. So who the hell knows? But he never said that he turned the car off. He said that he shut the lights off, turned the blinker off, and shut the doors. And I heard it reported that both doors were open, and I heard it reported that the driver door was open, and I heard it reported that the blinker was on, and I heard it reported that the blinker wasn't on. So it's kind of all over the freaking map. But we do have the first witness that saw the car at 11:45, or right around 11:45, who said that the lights were on and the door was open. And then we have the one that saw the car like 12 to midnight that said the same thing. So I think that we can at least, and then we have Robitaille, who says, at least in one of his accounts, that he closed the door and shut the lights off. So I feel pretty confident that the car most likely had the lights on, the doors open, and the blinker on, because we're hearing that from multiple different witnesses, and at least two that really don't have a dog in the fight. They didn't. I mean, I don't know who the witnesses are, but there was never any indication that they were suspected. I think they were just passersby. So they don't really have a reason to lie or to make shit up. So I think with a certain degree of certitude, we can say doors were open, lights were on, blinker was on at some point. And then by the time that the world travelers show up at 8 a.m., obviously they took pictures, doors are closed, lights are off, blinker's not blinking. So I think that probably James did shut the doors. Why he told all these different stories and everything, we'll probably never know.
Yeah.
Whether he was involved in some way or he was just a dumbass kid. He said that he was drunk, likely on drugs too, and he didn't want to get busted.
Yeah.
So he didn't call the cops. So whatever.
Anonymous tip, people.
Right. And so then by March 25th, so 5.5 days or so after she's gone missing, is when the Vermont State Police finally start investigating the case as a missing persons case. So we've lost
Yeah.
You talk about the
First 48.
first 48, that critical period of time. We're way past the first 48.
3 times past the first 48.
Yes. And so then on March 26th, the Vermont State Police search the Dutchburn property. They bring in canines. They use a National Guard helicopter, and they find some loose change on the ground. They find a water bottle, an unsmoked cigarette, and then they also discovered an undisclosed item of interest. What that is, we don't know, but something.
More interesting than the broken necklace.
Apparently, and it might be referring to vomit that was found on the car. I think like on the right where the door closes on the car. I believe there was vomit found. DNA was taken from the scene, and then it was matched to somebody who apparently has a rock solid alibi and was nowhere near that. So unfortunately, it seems like
that's weird.
Not really. Not for a teenage party or shit. I had puke in my truck half the freaking time when I was there.
Not me. You are so far from me.
Yeah, I mean,
I would be a story you're telling about if someone threw up in my car, because I would have killed them.
Yeah, that was a pretty common occurrence.
Running
around being a wild man.
Oh, man. No. Okay, moving on.
And this car's filthy. It is a typical teenager's pigsty.
But see, that's different than... Okay, we're moving on.
And, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean like there was a whole big pile of vomit. Like, somebody could have puked out the door and left a little on there that got missed or something. We just don't know. And so, but whatever that undisclosed item of interest is, they're keeping it close to the vest. We don't know what that was. We do know that DNA was found, and that they worked with Othram in Texas, and through genetic genealogy and stuff, they found the person that the DNA came from, and the Vermont State Police did come out and say that this person is not involved. It was an innocent type situation.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I bet that deflated them so hard.
Yeah. And then March 30th. So again, she went missing on the 19th.
Yeah.
March 30th, the car is finally processed by Vermont State Police Crime Lab after it was impounded. And it's confirmed that they found an ATM card, glasses, contact lenses, and migraine medication, which apparently Brianna suffered from pretty significant migraine headaches and relied upon that medication. And, for those that have never had a migraine headache, it is like world-ending shit. And so if you're medication dependent for migraines, you're not even without it. It's coming with you. So, and then April 14th, so almost a month after Brianna comes up missing, Bruce receives a tip that Brianna is being held in a root cellar of a home about 15 minutes from the Black Lantern. He calls Vermont State Police and he tells them, you either go search this house or I'm going to search this house. And so then on April 15th, the Vermont State Police do go to the home. I hear it reported all the time as a raid, but when you really read what happens, it sounds like they just drove up, knocked on the door, and the residents of the house said, yeah, come on in and you can search, and gave them permission to search. So
I have a raid.
I don't consider that a raid like people think of a raid.
I think a bulldozing through, not giving anybody any warning, that's a raid.
Yeah, like when you serve a search warrant and, break down or like go to the house and tell them, hey, here's our search warrant, get your asses out, we're searching.
Right.
From what I understand, they didn't have a search warrant. Maybe they did, but I know for a fact that Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson, asshat number 1 and asshat number 2, are the ones that are living in this place, and they gave permission for them to search. Why? I have no freaking clue, because they have guns, drug paraphernalia, all kinds of shit all over the house.
Well, they probably think they're looking for a body and we don't have the body.
Yeah, well, they get arrested because they have all this.
That's why we called them asshats. I'm not saying they're smart.
Dumber and shit.
But they're probably thinking we don't have the body and that's what they're looking for.
Like I said, the home on Reservoir Road was searched by the Vermont State Police and the Vermont Fish and Game Wardens and Border Patrol agents. And it was searched with permission. Drugs and paraphernalia was found, but no Brianna. And all 4 occupants of the home were arrested and charged accordingly.
Okay.
So that's where we're at up to this point. Now, we've got to talk about the car and the strange ass position that it's in. And I don't even know exactly, you know, I've enhanced these photos. I've tried everything I possibly can. Now, do you have any questions about any of this mess that we've waded through up to this point?
Not that I haven't been quiet about. Or that
So, you know, the one odd thing that has come...
Generally, if I have a question, you know about it.
So the one odd thing that has come up over and over again in this is this lime wedge that was on the trunk of the car.
I was wondering.
And we just don't know. I mean...
So odd.
She worked at a restaurant with a bar. So it's possible that maybe some people were out drinking in the parking lot and were just like leaning against her car and it ended up there.
So
I mean, it's also, you know, limes are also can be used, or citrus can be used when you're like cooking up crack to inject it.
I had no idea.
Yeah, the citrus can be used for the liquid in that. So that's a possibility. But the odd thing is where was it used or when was it used? Like in either situation, unless it was just like put on her car at the Black Lantern Inn and it has nothing to do with the case.
And what was it actually used to like do?
No, we don't know.
Squeezed? Yeah. So
we've got Deputy Dipshit.
Yeah.
Who didn't freaking process. The only way that we even know about this lime wedge is the World Travelers said it was there.
Right.
The cop didn't collect it. We don't know. There's no photos of it. There's no proof that it was there because the cop did a shitty... I mean, the cop did nothing.
Yeah.
He called a tow truck and had it towed. That's what he did. That's it. So Bruce went to the Black Lantern to ask them questions, I think around like the 25th, when him and Kelly were looking, and he was pissed that he beat the Vermont State Police there because they had filed the missing persons report on the 23rd, and he still beat the Vermont State Police there. They still hadn't been there. Trooper Dipshit went over there and it was closed, and then he went on holiday. So nobody ever talked to him. So yeah, Bruce was pissed. And early on in this investigation, it was disappointing. I mean, like what Fred Murray went through with New Hampshire, the Maitlands are going through a month later with Vermont. And that is just like fighting, just banging their heads against the walls, trying to get somebody to give a shit and do something. And then, you know, like I said earlier, by the time that they finally do, it's too late. Like that golden window has passed.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know about that lime, but let's go ahead and dive through the list of evidence that we know that was in the car. So we've got 2 paychecks from the Black Lantern that are addressed to Brianna Maitland, and they were found on the front passenger seat. And like we said, neither one of those amounted to much. I think one was $37 and the other one was about the same amount, not much. She'd only worked a few shifts there. So we're talking very minor amount of money. And I've heard it reported in a bunch of different places that it seems so odd that if somebody took her for a drug debt or for whatever, why didn't they take the checks? And to me, I don't know why in the hell you would take the checks.
Yeah.
Like,
they're not big enough.
Well, I don't care if they're $20,000.
Cash, yeah.
If you go to cash somebody else's check, you are getting caught, period. Even if you successfully cash it,
True.
You're on video. I don't know why anybody would steal a check unless, they've kidnapped her and they force her to go cash the checks or something. But I just don't see it as that odd that the checks were left, because I think you'd definitely be on our dumbass criminals section of shadow chats for trying to cash somebody else's check. And then we have a container of food. So one styrofoam takeout box with half a sandwich inside was found on the front passenger floor. An air freshener, which was a marijuana leaf trinket with the text Emerald Bay, was found. I think it was hanging, like an air freshener was hanging from the rearview mirror of the car. Then we have a photo, which was a cutout image of Angelina Jolie from an article in the August 2003 issue of Cosmopolitan magazine with the text that read, "Angelina holds nothing back." And that was taped above the driver's door.
Weird.
So there you have the air freshener, the marijuana leaf air freshener. And then here you can see where the article is taped above the driver's door. And I imagine that Brianna was probably just using it as like an inspirational piece like kids do. I mean, that doesn't really strike me as unusual at all in a kid's car. They got all kinds of shit. Just like this next thing, we've got beer bottle caps that were glued to the radio dials, which sounds like a total teenage thing to do.
Yep.
We've got an ashtray that was full of cigarette butts. Again, not really that crazy or surprising. A ferry card, which is a small card with a graphic of a ferry standing in front of a waterfall. And that was found in the driver's side visor. Then we've got red Solo cups, another total teenage thing. So 2 red Solo.
Keith was there. Sorry.
Is that a Solo cup thing or something? I don't know.
It's his song.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah. It was a blurt out.
So we've got the 2 red Solo cups that were found on the floor behind the passenger seat. And then we've got 3 cases of food items, including tuna and Campbell's Chunky Soup.
Did you say cases?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's not like the cases. It's like the little, like, when you get like 4 Campbell soups or whatever all together in the little thing. Yeah.
Preparing for the apocalypse.
And so those were found behind the driver's seat. And then a CD player. And I mean, this is going back a little bit. So this is, I'm sure, was like, what do they call the portable, the Discman. Remember after the Walkman, then they came out with the portable CD players. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. So we have a CD player with headphones, which was found behind the passenger seat. So I'm sure it was one of those little portable, and those were so freaking common during this time. I mean, that was, when CDs first came out, that was the only way. You remember you used to get the little tape player or the little tape system plugged into your tape deck, plugged into your CD player. It was so cool. And then you'd like have it sitting on the dash. And so all of a sudden, all these teenagers that were driving like a bat out of hell were driving like 20 miles an hour because they didn't want the CD to skip. Yeah. Then we have a medium length ice scraper, which was found behind the passenger seat. We've got an empty beer bottle that was found on the back seat on the driver's side. Then in the trunk, we have miscellaneous personal items, luggage, clothing, and other personal items. And from what I understand, she was like holding on to somebody else's items for some reason. Like maybe she had a friend that was kind of going through the same kind of shit she was, and they just asked her to maybe put them in the trunk of her car. I don't think that these were her items. I cannot be 100% sure of that, but I don't think it really matters all that much, but she did have a trunk full of shit, basically. And then the broken necklace, which was confirmed to be Brianna, was found near the driver's door. We have loose change, which I said the World Travelers claimed it was 65 cents in loose change scattered around the car. And then there was more loose change that was found in the car as well. So not that unusual, especially for that period of time, because we were paying cash for shit all the time, where now we use a card. But man, you used to have so much change in your freaking car and in your pants pockets and all. You had change all over the place. So, and then we have a partially drank water bottle that was found near the driver's door. And then this lime wedge, which was apparently found on the top of the trunk lid, frozen to it. So it doesn't surprise me that it was frozen to it.
Yeah.
You know, I have heard several different places say, you know, if it was used in alcohol, then it wouldn't have frozen. I mean, that's just simply not true. Like, granted, if alcohol has a high enough alcohol content, it won't freeze. But
a lime's not going to soak up enough of that.
Exactly. You know, that's going to run off, and the lime juice is going to be what's left, and it is going to freeze. So I don't think that, I feel pretty confident that lime could have been in an alcoholic drink. And
it doesn't matter what kind of drink it was in. It's weird. Why is it there?
It's weird, but I do just want to say that it's been reported that it couldn't have been in an alcoholic drink because it was frozen. And it's important to note that if it was in a drink, unless it was like a shot of tequila or something, it's probably a cocktail, which when you mix a cocktail, you bring the percentage of alcohol in that drink down quite a bit because you're diluting it. And then, add to that the fact, like, even if it was dipped in very strong tequila, I would feel very confident that you could take a lime wedge, dip it in 120 proof alcohol, and throw it on a trunk lid in 8-degree temperatures, and it's going to freeze to the trunk lid because the alcohol, like I said, it's going to run off, and the lime juice is going to freeze.
It's science experiments for this winter.
There you go.
I'm doing it.
You don't even have to wait to the winter and just take a lime wedge, dip it in alcohol, and throw it in the freezer for a couple hours.
Yeah.
I guarantee the son of a bitch is going to be frozen when you take it out.
But that is not recreating.
This is true.
I don't have a trunk either.
This is what I want you to do. I want you to go out and find a green 1985 Oldsmobile 88 and a lime. And then wait till winter, and I'll give you further instructions.
I have until winter to find that car.
Yes.
And don't laugh, but my son will find one if I ask him to.
I'm sure. Probably wouldn't be that hard to find.
I'll have it here tomorrow.
They actually were pretty damn good cars, really.
I had an 88 Delta 88.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they were really freaking good cars. And I mean, common as hell back in those days.
One of the cheapest insurances I ever had.
Oh, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So then we've got an unlit cigarette that was reported to be found during the search. We already mentioned that. We've got the vomit. Already mentioned that. The migraine medicine, the contact lenses, the glasses, the ATM card. I already mentioned all of those stuff. Those were all found in the car, but since the police found them, it just was never reported. And then we've got, so apparently during the search, they found a woman's fleece jacket like in the field, but it did not belong to Brianna. And so it's considered to not be relevant to the crime, but it is brought up, so I'm bringing it up. And then we have the DNA, which I theorized came from the vomit, but maybe it came from something else. Regardless, the DNA was tested against 11 people of interest, and it was determined to belong to a cooperating party that was not linked to the crime. So, which is a real bummer, like you said,
Yeah.
Okay, so then this is just so damn difficult. But then we have a private investigating group called MJA Investigations, and you can look up there. They have like some YouTube videos and shit like that. I don't really know what to think about them, but so they were brought in, or they came in at some point later. They did a search at the Dutchburn property. They also went to the Maitland's home and searched Brianna's car. And this is what they claim to have found. So they claim that that Vermont State Police left fingerprint tape with apparent prints in the vehicle, which they collected and gave back to the Vermont State Police. They also claim that they found 3 green fibers, and that each fiber is supposed to be collected separately in an investigation. They said that they found 4 additional fingerprints other than those from the Vermont State Police, and according to them, there's a 70% chance that those prints are usable. Then they said that they found traces of blood under the driver door armrest that was missed by the Vermont State Police. They say that they found a light blue syringe cap that was missed by the Vermont State Police.
Oh, drugs.
And then it's confusing as shit. I think that they found these next 2 items like at the Dutchburn property and potentially like buried or something. And that was Victoria's Secret's underwear in quote unquote Brianna's size and style, and a syringe that matched the light blue syringe cap they found in the car. But so the one thing that really makes me things that make you go, is how would they know what Brianna's size and style of freaking underwear is? I couldn't find it. I don't think that Bruiser Kelly said that it was.
Well, maybe roommates.
Maybe
friends because they see laundry or...
But it doesn't appear like Jillian Stout doesn't seem to be the source. I don't know. I find it odd. So I find a few things odd. So according to Overecker, which again is between him and Lou are the ones that I got to refer back to because they know about the case, because they're out there talking about this shit. And so they know a whole hell of a lot more about this than I know, and definitely way, way more about it than I'll ever know. So I got to defer to them. And according to Overecker, he knows the Vermont State Patrol officer, detective, or whatever that performed the search on Brianna's vehicle, albeit late. He's the one that performed the search, and Overecker feels very confident that he's a solid detective, that there's no way in hell that he would have missed all this evidence. And so I don't know. I don't know anything about this, the MJA investigations. I don't know anything about it. I'm just reporting the shit that I found. But I do think that it's important to say I've at least learned enough to know that this needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because even myself, yeah, you've heard me really rip on Trooper dipshit, and I'm going to continue through this entire series because I think the guy at least was a dipshit. Maybe he was a young cop, maybe he didn't, whatever, but he doesn't get a pass from me. He's a dipshit. He totally dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And it's very likely that he is the reason that we don't know what happened.
It's disgusting how poorly
it's disgusting. But with that being said, I find it like, if this is true, my head will explode, because you're talking about
I should not have been drinking at that point.
If it's true that that the investigators missed blood in the car, missed a syringe cap, missed this next one I haven't mentioned yet, but according to the MJA investigations, they found 3 sets of flex cuffs that had been cut off that had hair in the locking mechanism. If that stuff is found in the car, if the cops really missed that, okay, 3 green fibers, that's bad. But flex cuffs with hair in them
And
blood, that's so bad it's almost unbelievable. And then you've got Overecker saying there's no way, because this guy's a really solid investigator. There's no way he's missing this shit.
Okay.
I think that I have to talk about it because it's out there all over the freaking place. And the problem with all of this shit, and this is the reason I'm doing the show this way, is if you're researching this on your own, it's you read this stuff and you're like, oh shit, the flex cuffs were found in the car and there was hair in the, so she must have had, and then you keep reading and you're like, well, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. So there's so much of this stuff that's just thrown out there as, this is fact. This is exactly what happened.
Right.
Well, then you get to researching it and it's like,
confusing.
not so quick.
Yeah.
So this is a really complicated one that's, I mean, it's all over the freaking place. So that last bit of evidence, you can take with a grain of salt because it may be related. It may not be related. Some of it might be related. But the first list of evidence, so the evidence from MJA investigations was the apparent fingerprint tape that was missed, the 3 green fibers, 4 additional fingerprints, traces of blood under the driver's door armrest, the light blue syringe cap, the syringe, Victoria's Secret's underwear, and the flex cuffs. That list of evidence, in my mind, you almost have to you can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It doesn't... I don't have a high degree of confidence in it. How's that? The evidence that I listed...
That's the nicest thing you probably could say about it.
Well, yeah, and I can't attack these guys because I don't know anything about them.
Right.
And if they're up there, they're searching and stuff like that, at least they're trying to help. I mean, I hope that's the reason. I hope they're not just trying to get their name out there or whatever, drum up business. I hope that they're legitimately up there trying to help. So I'm not going to attack them.
Mm-hmm.
Is all I can say is I can't confidently say one way or the other on that evidence. Maybe it's relevant and maybe it's not. They did say that they turned it all over to Vermont State Police, so it's in the right hands for somebody to make that determination, somebody that's in a better position than me.
Do we think it's in the right hands, though?
Well, according to both Lou Berry and Greg Overecker, the investigators, both with the Vermont State Police and the FBI that are on the case right now, are really solid, good cops that are following every lead to the best of their abilities. And again, I think they're handicapped by the shitty job that was done early on.
Gotcha.
And when you're handed a mess, it's hard to make anything other than a mess out of it.
Yeah.
So I do believe that
now it's in the right.
The ones that are investigating it right now are on top of it. They're really working hard. Vermont State Police got a black eye out of this deal.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I just assumed we probably shouldn't be letting them do anything.
Yeah, they really got a black eye. New Hampshire got a black eye out of the Maura Murray thing. Like we talked about in the Maura Murray case, apparently there's been all kinds of changes in their protocols in New Hampshire, and Vermont definitely did the same. There was a couple other missing persons cases that popped up shortly after Brianna's where they were on it immediately. So I think that the changes that needed to be made were made, but unfortunately that does absolutely nothing for Brianna and for Brianna's case. So we got to talk about the car, and I'm going to try to do a video on this. At the very least, I'll be posting these on the website and stuff. But if the listeners are at all interested, pull these pictures up, look at them. But Brianna would have had to have driven past the Dutchburn property, and then I think likely have pulled in, maybe to talk to somebody. Maybe somebody said, meet me here. Maybe that was what was said.
Yeah.
I don't know. But she would have almost had to have pulled in and then put it in reverse and, I mean, like slammed the gas and driven backwards into the side of this building. The theories are kind of all over the place, and we'll be digging into those theories tonight. Really isn't the night for it. I mean, we've spent this entire episode, and we've been talking for a while now on just the timeline and the evidence. And, you know, I did that because it's really important that people understand what we're talking about. And it's so freaking confusing. It's all over the damn place. And so hopefully we're getting to a place in this country where, and I don't think we are, but hopefully we're making headway. Maybe where a cop sees a car crashed into the side of a building and then assumes it's a drunk driver and doesn't do shit about it. Like, I hope, like I said, I really hope that this cop at least got disciplined. Whether he deserved to be fired for this or not, I can't say. I have no clue. I don't know what the specifics of it was, but he definitely deserves to at least have been disciplined and reprimanded. Like, you totally screwed this shit up. What the hell were you thinking? And one place that, and I said that this would be coming up, and this is the time for it. So I misspoke last episode. Lou Berry, who's the former chief of police, and now is the private investigator. Lou Berry feels like this trooper really didn't do anything wrong, that they see vehicles like this all the time. This is just how they handle it. And the only reason that it looks like this is because Brianna disappeared. Greg Overacker doesn't agree with him. Neither do I.
Right.
And I said on the last episode, I'm going to say it again now, and I'm probably going to say it over and over again. And that is the main reason that I don't feel that way in this case isn't necessarily like the Brianna Maitland case, because I think that we potentially have an injured victim, although we could have.
You mean Maura Murray?
What did I say?
Brianna Maitland.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. In the Maura Murray case, we potentially have an injured victim that's wandering around in the woods out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that couldn't be the case with Brianna, but it's less likely. And like I said the last time with the spider windshield, I mean, that's an indication somebody's head hit the windshield. So we have direct visual evidence that we have a head injury. Brianna's case, not so much. And I said it last time, I wouldn't expect significant injury from this car wreck. Like, if I saw it, my immediate reaction wouldn't be a head injury. I wouldn't necessarily be running through the different injuries that we could be considering here.
First thing I thought was whiplash.
Yeah, you mentioned last week whiplash, and that's about the extent of the injury that you're going to have, is maybe some whiplash. But what you definitely do have is a drunk driver that has caused property damage. And that's a big damn deal, you know? That's not something that you just get to write off and just say, yeah, well, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, take a few more pictures at least.
Absolutely. For the investigation of the accident.
Yeah. Come on.
If nothing else. So the ball was dropped big time on this case by this trooper. And
it was dropped and stomped flat. It wasn't just dropped.
It really was. Yeah. So as we kind of come to the end of this episode, where are you at? And, you know, is there anything I missed or I didn't cover thoroughly enough or anything like that?
One of these days I will say yes, but I've been asking questions through the whole thing. So I think I'm right there with you on, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's the only word I can think of right now.
And it's sad, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Bruce and Kelly now have Vermont State Police that's working with them. And from what I understand, between the investigators, both Lou and Greg and the family, it sounds like all of them have a pretty good working relationship with the Vermont State Police, and Vermont State Police shares some stuff with the investigators and the family that they don't share with the public. Obviously, they're not going to just open their books and say, this is everything we have. We know investigators don't do that. And in this particular case, now that we have some really solid investigators, it sounds like, working this case, and we're having some leads that are being broke currently right now, which is kind of incredible. I certainly didn't plan it that way. We picked
That's interesting.
We picked the Maura Murray case, and then I said we'd have to cover Brianna Maitland right after that because the two go together. And it just so happens that right in the middle of that whole thing, we have some breaking news that Tim and Lance get all the credit for. Again, I want to be very clear, not taking credit for something, but they deserve all the credit for that. But it's really huge news that's breaking, that we now have eyewitnesses that have a potential vehicle. And so maybe we're going to have a break in this case. And so, that's the long way around to say, I can understand why Vermont State Police isn't sharing everything. And then, both Lou and Greg have said, they'll take something to the Vermont State Police and they'd immediately jump on it. They take them leads. They feel very confident that they're followed up on and stuff. So I think we have some good investigators on the case now. I think it's very unfortunate that the really critical time period for this, and not necessarily just the time period, but the crime scene was destroyed by Trooper Dipshit. Yeah. And you can't recreate that. We know what we were told by the world travelers, that potentially have this lime wedge. Well, it would have been really great if Trooper Dipshit would have collected that lime wedge that could potentially hold DNA from somebody as well. But from what I understand, it's gone. And then, you have the additional evidence that was found at the scene when they did the search. But, the necklace, again, from what I understand, was confirmed to be Brianna's, but we have the other evidence. We have the water bottle. We have the to-go coffee cup, which the world travelers said they saw the to-go cup. But my point is, when it's found 5 days later, the evidentiary value of it may be diminished or may be questionable altogether. Can we say 100%, that this piece of evidence was there the morning of the wreck? We're talking about a building that is relatively close to the road. I thought that it was closer, but then from research, it looks like it was 50 to 60 feet off the road. Pictures do not look like that, but that's how it's reported. It's a little ways off the road, 50 to 60 feet off the road. But that's neither here nor there. The fact is, it's pretty damn close to the road where trash and shit gets thrown out all the freaking time. So when it wasn't collected that morning and the scene wasn't preserved, all the evidence then is called into question. Yeah. It makes it extraordinarily difficult. So what I do know is it's tragic. I do know that Bruce and Kelly deserve answers, and Brianna deserved to live her life and work through the struggles and go on and become, whatever it was that she wanted to become. She deserved that opportunity. So the Black Lantern Inn, Route 118, that abandoned farmhouse, that car wedged in like it was trying to escape. Personal items left behind, and still no sense of urgency, no scene control, no preserved evidence, just a quiet assumption that a 17-year-old girl had, quote, probably run off. And because of that assumption, the story we're trying to tell is built on a fractured foundation.
The truth is, the first 48 hours of this case weren't just fumbled, they were erased. The photos we don't have, the interviews that never happened, the evidence that was never collected, all of it stacks up, and it leaves a family, a community, and an entire investigation chasing shadows.
And if you're wondering whether the early chaos was just incompetence or whether there was something bigger lurking beneath it, you're not alone. Everybody's been asking the same thing.
If you would like to support the work that we're doing, visit darkdialogue.com. There you can support the show, adopt a victim for research, or join the Dark Dialogue Collective. We're not just talking, we're investigating.
And if you know something, anything, and especially if you know somebody that was driving a late 1990s to early 2000s gray or silver Honda Civic in the Montgomery, Vermont area on March 19th, 2004, this vehicle was seen between 11:30 and 11:45. If you have any information on this vehicle, on the potential driver of this vehicle, which was seen in the area at the time, please contact the Vermont State Police or the FBI, or you can submit tips to piftmtips@gmail.com. That's Private Investigators for the Missing Tips, piftmtips@gmail.com, or you can email chiefbarry@gmail.com, or call the toll-free tip line at 1-866-331-6660. Again, that's 1-866-331-6660. If you know anything about what happened to Brianna that night, if you know any information about that car, please reach out. As a very last resort, you can email us at info@darkdialogue.com. We would much prefer you take the tips directly to the Vermont State Police, the FBI, or Private Investigators for the Missing. However, if you won't do that, at least email them to us. We will get them to the right place. We take all tips very seriously. We do follow leads, we do follow up, and we're not afraid to ask questions that should have been asked 20 years ago.
So follow us on Substack for deep dives, transcripts, case documents, and more. And if you haven't already, leave a review. It helps get these stories in front of more people, and that's how pressure builds.
We're not here to theorize, we're here to uncover. And until someone answers for what happened to Brianna, we're going to keep asking, keep digging, and as always, we're going to keep the dialogue alive.